Hello guys and girls, how's it going? Screezilla here, and I hope you're all well. And you join me today for a history of the Fiat OTO Melara Type 6616, or as we know it, the AUBL. Now, this vehicle has been very hard to track down for a British-speaking person. Now, in Italian, it might be a bit easier to track down. However, I'm not quite sure. You might have just noticed here some very lucky misses. Just the speed of the AUBL is a huge advantage sometimes, and does help you get through some relatively rough spots. So yeah, it really did well. One other thing as well that we will look at today is actually one of the problems with this vehicle in the game, something that Gaijin hasn't modelled yet, or they simply didn't know about. Could be either or with Gaijin, who knows. So during World War II, Italy had a very large and very strong armoured car force due to the terrain of Italy, especially the Alpine regions and the mountainous regions. There's so many of them around there. The armoured car was the perfect vehicle for the terrain. Now, after World War II, it wasn't until about the 1970s until Italy started getting back into production of armoured cars with Fiat and OTO Melara. Now, Iveco are also involved in this, but that's a long story. So, Fiat and OTO Melara teamed up and developed the new car, the 6616, along with the 6614. The vehicles were finished in 1972. Italy had actually ordered 50 of the cars, but the most prominent markets were actually overseas. One of the more sort of noticeable ones was the nation of South Korea. They actually ordered these vehicles and actually ordered the license to build their own vehicles there, and that's something I'll get onto a little bit in time as well. But places like Peru, Somalia, I think Brazil as well even ordered these, so there were quite a few places ordering them. Now, the vehicle was built on the main chassis built by Fiat. The body of the car was actually built by OTO Melara, and it was an 8mm skin, 8mm of steel all around the car, welded around the car. And the actual chassis and sort of hull of the car are airtight. They're basically, it's a pressurised cabin. One of the reasons for that is to basically provide safety for the crew against sort of chemical weapons. So it's fully enclosed, so no chemical weapons can go in. But the secondary reason for that is because it's amphibious. Now, the vehicle has a crew of 3. The driver is sitting front left. The gunner and commander and loader sit in the middle of the tank, centrally with the actual turret of the vehicle. Now, the turret was actually built by OTO Melara rather than Cockerell. Now, Cockerell actually provided the gun, which is the 90mm gun you see me firing here, but OTO Melara made the turret, which is quite strange because Cockerell actually make their own turrets. They design their own turrets to be able to fit on these sort of vehicles as a modular item that you can just buy and build up to how you like it, with the gun included, of course. But for some reason, the Italians decided to make their own with OTO Melara, and it's a much weaker turret than that of the Cockerell. However, of course, it is lighter, so there is that to keep in mind. Now, the engine is in the back, and it is the Fiat/Iveco diesel engine. It's actually a supercharged engine as well, so a very good little engine. Diesel meaning it's got very good torque, things like that. Not the greatest top speed, but it's got very good torque, so it's got good acceleration to get there. It also has very good ability for climbing hills and towing other vehicles. It has around about 160 horsepower all up. This is matched with a 4-wheel drive gearbox which has 5 front 5 gears to go forwards and a single gear to go backwards. Now, as I said, interestingly, this vehicle should be amphibious. It does use its tyres to basically create motion in the water, basically like paddles, like a paddle steamer, similar to actually some tanks which use their tracks to propel the vehicle forwards once in water. And the vehicle can get up to a top speed of about 5 kilometers per hour in water. So it's not a terribly fast vehicle, but it's not terribly slow. And really, this vehicle should have that option available to it. Now, the one really good thing about this vehicle being amphibious is the fact it doesn't need a brake at the front. Now, you look at some of the other vehicles, so if you look at the BMPs or the PT76s, you'll notice that they've got a little flap that goes up, basically. And this is designed to basically stop water rushing over the front of the tank and getting into the driver's area. However, with the AUBL, the actual front of the vehicle, if we just switch to the free camera here, you can see the actual front of the vehicle is fully enclosed. The driver's hatch is fully enclosed and uses actually a periscope system for him to look out. He's actually not sitting as high up as pictured in game, so the actual driver sits a little bit lower, and this is all a periscope system to allow them to have optimal safety, and also to allow the vehicle to basically swim without any problems. The only preparation the car needs for swimming is to make sure all the hatches are closed. It has an internal bilge pump, which obviously pumps any water that does get in out, and of course they make sure that the actual vehicle is pressurized. If it's pressurized, then the bilge pump is superfluous. So the vehicle is attached with a number of different weapon systems and a number of different types. One of the main things on the vehicle was actually the completely fluffed that shot on the T95 there. One of the main systems used was a 20mm autocannon, and this was very, very popular and useful for the vehicle, and the probably most numerous version of this vehicle. So instead of a 90mm cannon, it had the 20mm autocannon sticking out the front. So the Italians paired this up with a 90mm Cockerel Mark III cannon, as I said, and that was basically designed to act as the main gun, to give this tank a lot more punch, because with the aforementioned lighter guns, especially the sort of 20mm guns which it was using, the Rheinmetall Mark 20mm, it just didn't have that much punch, so it needed something to actually make it viable against things like main battle tanks, which the 20mm obviously didn't. However, the 20mm was good for reconnaissance use, as it was a bit lighter and easier to use. Now, the tank, as I said, does have a 2-man turret. It's a 3-man crew, so it's a relatively small crew. It's also a very small vehicle and very fast, which makes this vehicle a fantastic scout. As you've seen in this game, so far we've got 3 kill assists as well as 3 kills. And most of this was done with scouting involved, because we just managed to scout out the enemy. We got to their flank early in the game, as you can see on the side of the map here, and we really made them be punished for that, because they could not fight back. Every time they tried to get in a position, I could spot them, scout them, and then take them out. If I didn't kill them, one of the other teammates did. So scouting is a hugely important role for this vehicle. The other role this vehicle played was as a troop carrier, and that was actually the Type 6614. Yes, 14 variant of the vehicle. And the 6614 was a bit different because it had the driver on the left-hand side, and the engine placed on the right-hand side, which to me seems a bit of a waste of time, a bit sort of a bit of one of those strange decisions, because you've already got this driver set up on this left-hand side here. So they moved the driver to the right and then placed the engine in the front. I guess moving the whole engine it didn't make much difference moving it across. So it wasn't really a huge deal, because the whole chassis had to be sort of revised anyway, because the engine slots here at the back, so the filter, the air filter and the radiators, things like that, all had to be moved up to the front of the tank as well. So it made a bit of a change of the vehicle. So we're going to head back to the hangar now and take a bit of a look at the vehicle in the hangar mode. Now, as I said, this vehicle has an 8mm thick hull. Basically, the armour is 8mm across the board for the actual chassis, and for the chassis of the car, the hull of the car. The turret itself does get a little bit of extra protection with this 15mm of armour, as you can see, which does very, very little for the front. So it does give you some protection against light small arm fire. It will protect you from things like 7.62mm machine guns. However, 50 cals will rip you apart at pretty much any range, and of course any plane strafing you with a 50 cal is going to just absolutely annihilate you. Now, as I said, it is strange that they did use their own manufacturer turret rather than the Cockerel turret, which is very similar. The Cockerel turret actually has a bit more armour though, as I said before. The 90mm gun is very useful on this tank. It's a very strong gun, very decent gun. Very good recoil as well. This tank had an issue when it was first launched of having recoil that would basically flip the tank. Luckily that has been fixed. So if we look at modifications, you have the ability to take HESH as well with you, which is always quite handy, as well as a smoke charge as well. You do also get 6 smoke grenades on the side launcher here as well. The vehicle is okay-ish when it gets hit, because of the sort of no armour is best armour sort of way that War Thunder works. Sometimes you will just get over-penetrated and you might not have an instant kill. There's been a fair few times where my crew's been turned yellow or sort of orange after being struck, especially around this area where there's not really much happening. The shells just pass right through. However, you do carry a bit of ammunition with you, and there's a good chance you're going to go up. But then again, you're probably going to go up no matter what with a single hit in this vehicle. So it's best to carry more ammunition with you than none. The vehicle itself's got very good off-road capability. It's very quick. It's got a very good power to weight ratio as well. Being only at 8.2 tons, it's a very lightweight vehicle. And has a very good top speed of up to 60 miles per hour on road. Not going to achieve that off-road much. You're generally going to be around the 30 to 40 miles per hour, sort of going downhill in sort of most areas. One thing you do have to worry about though is the very soft areas like sand or very soft mud, or travelling through rivers and things like that, because you will find this vehicle does go quite slow. As I did mention, this vehicle is amphibious, just unfortunately it's not modelled in War Thunder yet. Hopefully it will be. Maybe with this video it might bring it to Gaijin's attention and actually fix it, because with this vehicle being amphibious, it would really give the Italians a really dangerous vehicle, because the AUBL is already a vehicle that most people fear, along with the Fiat Type 6614s with with the anti-tank rifle on top. These again were amphibious vehicles. As you can see with the actual air inlets, they're sort of try to be sort of angled away a little bit to try and get less water in there. But the vehicle's generally sort of buoyant around this point, so it doesn't really matter. As I was talking about, these vehicles share a lot of the same, well, basically the same parts. The only big change, of course, is the driver is on the right-hand side rather than the left-hand side, and of course the engine is in the front rather than the back. So this does change the vehicle a little bit. Now, these vehicles were designed to carry about, I think it was 6 to 8 troops into battle. So there are some really interesting options there for it. It was a very good armoured personnel carrier, and as you can see on the sides here, it does have the slots available for the riflemen to point their guns out. So these little holes here basically were positions where the soldiers could actually push them open, point their guns out, and use as extra machine gun fire ports or rifle fire ports. So a really neat little thing there, and something that people often overlook and don't think of. It's a very cool little device there though. Obviously the 6614 is a little bit sort of trickier to use, but it is a bit lower in BR, and this is the vehicle most people can get at first, and it is a lot of fun to play. Having this amphibious would be incredible fun as well, I must say. But we're looking at the AUBL today, and as I said, this vehicle is great fun. It's a fantastic scout, it's got a fantastic gun on board, it has Heat FS, which has a very good capability of penetrating things, 300mm of penetration value. However, I have found it's been acting a bit weird. You will find on some American tanks it doesn't penetrate. Things like the T29, for instance, and T32s and 34s, you will sort of come up against them and sort of shoot them in the sort of side or back here and not penetrate, which makes no sense because the armour is not that thick. Even with things like the T95 as well, again you will find you have trouble penetrating it from the sort of back to side. Sometimes the shell just seems to not want to work, and I don't know what's up with that. It's kind of a weird sort of Heat FS issue. It just seems to happen with the Heat FS. We saw that with the T95 as well, actually, that there were a few shots sort of on this tank, sort of this frontal area. Yes, this will withstand it, but we did get a shot on this section here which went straight through. However, there were a few circumstances where the shell was sort of hitting around about this part and ricocheting or just not working as intended. So you will find that the shell doesn't work quite as intended sometimes, but unfortunately that's what happens with War Thunder. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, feel free to give me a subscription and a like and all that kind of thing. There's also the Discord, the Kaiju Club. You can join that below in the link. And yeah, I will see you all again next time for some more history videos and a bit more information. Now, if you do have more information on this vehicle, I would love to hear it in the comments below, because, as I said, digging up information on this vehicle has been like finding chicken's teeth. It's been nigh impossible. I found more information on the Korean variants than I have on the actual Italian variant, which is just one of those sort of situations where you just roll your eyes and just go, how is that even possible? But yeah, there is much more information on the Korean variant than the actual Italian variant. Even with photographs and things like that, it tends to be the Korean version rather than the actual Italian version. So very strange indeed to sort of not find the photos and information on this tank. It just seems to be a weird vehicle that just, its history is very hidden away on the internet and very hard to find. Alright guys, well until next time, this is me, Carl Screezilla, out. Bye bye.